stresses in the aviation count, the losses, and of course also as to why the accident happened, because this is the big question in front of many Indians today.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Well, of course, we'll be continuing to track all developments on that front through the course of the day. Thank you so much for getting us the latest on this for now. And with that, we call a wrap on this edition of the News Bulletin. News and updates will continue on the other side on WION World is One. Stay tuned.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
We're giving an AI-generated video where we can analyze your credit history, your credit score.
It's all about now content. A lot of it is now digital. A lot of TV content is still being watched.
I think it's been a fantastic journey. We have succeeded in some of our original goals, which was to bring credit accessibility to both companies and individuals.
Key milestones of traction under your leadership.
Getting actually a personal check from Mr. Ratan Tata. We got an opportunity to get listed.
One of the biggest things that has changed in Razorpay over the last 5-6 years I've been is to be a single product, single business company to a multi-product, multi-business company.
This week on the West Asia Post, Iran threatens to bomb US bases in West Asia if nuclear talks with Washington fail. Trump orders pulling out US troops from the region as he explores the Iranian target list. Also on the show, Hariri party's back-off threat to dissolve Knesset.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth
Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Hemkar Saroya.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and on the show today, at least 265 people have died after the Boeing 7878 Dreamliner heading towards London from Ahmedabad crashed in a residential area. A large-scale DNA sampling drive is currently underway to identify victims on the plane crash. We're going to get you all the details on the show today. Stay tuned.
Also on the show today, Israel says that it has launched a preemptive strike on Iran. Israeli military says dozens of aircraft took part in the opening strike, which included attacking several military targets, including nuclear targets across Iran. We'll bring you the details on that as well on the show, but first a quick check on the headlines.
Part of Iran's nuclear weaponization program.
Iranian state media confirms killing of Revolutionary Guards Chief Salami in Israeli strikes. State TV reports fire and smoke was seen at IRGC General Command headquarters in Pirozi Street in the east of Tehran.
Air raid sirens sounded in Jerusalem after the Defense Ministry declared a state of emergency.
Judge says Trump illegally deployed National Guard to help with Los Angeles protests and must return control to California.
At least 265 people have died after a London-bound Air India flight crashed in a residential area of Ahmedabad. The Boeing 7878 Dreamliner heading for Gatwick was carrying 242 people.
A large-scale DNA sampling drive is underway at Ahmedabad, where the FSL teams are working continuously to identify victims of the Air India plane crash. DNA test results are expected within 72 hours.
Three critical keys to the mystery behind the crash take center stage as the probe into the crash gets underway. Experts say findings from the black box, testimony of the survivor, and CCTV footage of the crash will play a critical role.
The investigation is going on. We've dispatched an investigation team that's been deployed, but we're working with the Indian authorities on this to establish the facts.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that the UK dispatched an investigation team to India, says Britain is working with Indian authorities to establish the facts.
Boeing shares dropped over 4% after an Air India 787 crash killed nearly 242, putting pressure on new CEO Kelly Ortberg just days before the Paris Air Show, despite no confirmed design flaws.
JJ Spawn plays error-free on America's toughest course to take one-shot lead in the opening round of the US Open. Patrick Reed steals the limelight with the double eagle. Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy struggle. All right, in our top focus from West Asia, Iranian state media has confirmed killing of Revolutionary Guards Chief Major General Hossein Salami in Israeli strikes. This is the latest that we're getting right now.
Well, the state TV reported fire and smoke was seen at IRGC General Command headquarters in Pirozi Street in the east of Tehran. And Iranian state media is also saying that Israeli strikes on residential buildings in the Iranian capital killed a number of civilians, including children.
Apart from that, blasts were heard in the Natanz city in Iran's central province of Isfahan, where a key nuclear site is located. This is Israeli air forces had conducted airstrikes on Iran, with explosions being heard across Iran's capital, Tehran.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said moments ago that Israel launched Operation Rising Lion against the Iranian threat to Israel's survival. Israeli pilots struck many targets in Iran, including Iran nuclear enrichment program, targeting its main enrichment facility in Natanz. Now, Israel has also struck the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Netanyahu said, "We are at a decisive moment in Israel's history, and this operation will continue for as many days as it takes."
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program.
The IDF spokesperson says Israel launched a precise and integrated preemptive strike based on high-quality intelligence with the aim of striking the Iranian nuclear program and in response to the Iranian regime's ongoing aggression against Israel.
Well, dozens of Air Force aircraft completed the opening strike, which included attacking dozens of military targets, which included nuclear targets in various areas of Iran. Now, sources suggest that the strike has targeted Iranian leaders from the IRGC, but it is yet to be confirmed.
Now, Israel has declared a state of emergency, warning of retaliatory action from Tehran. Defense Minister Israel Katz said Israel conducted a preemptive strike against Iran and that a missile and drone attack against the state of Israel and its civilian population is expected in the immediate future.
Well, air raid sirens sounded in Jerusalem after the Defense Ministry declared a state of emergency. The blast took place after US President Donald Trump warned that Israel could soon strike Iran's nuclear sites. Now, President Trump has called National Security Meeting of the Cabinet.
Now, to discuss this further, we're now being joined by Adrian Calmel from New York. He's a fellow at Arabian Peninsula Institute, terrorism and Middle Eastern scholar, as well as the author of the forthcoming book on Hezbollah. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. Always a pleasure to have you. Let me just begin by asking first what your assessment of these latest strikes by Israel are. In your assessment, what do you think this is going to result with?
What I expected, well, thank you for having me, first of all. What I expect from this is that this is going to throw the regime into complete disarray. The nuclear program was something that was, Khamenei believed was critical to the survival of the regime. That's why he would not give up on the enrichment or the reprocessing. And that necessitated the Israelis to take out these strikes. Because they are getting too close to was the weaponization, the militarization of their highly enriched uranium. So what I believe this will do, I mean, this is still early stages, you have to remember that the Iranian people have been robbed, stolen from, oppressed, and that money has gone into the nuclear program, or it's gone into the pockets of IRGC commanders, etc. What I expect is that this will almost be a dog whistle of sorts, where the Iranian people, I expect, and we're talking about 90 million people, are going to come back and try and take back their country.
Right, and we know, and this is what we can anticipate from the conversation that's going forward, that Iran had already warned Trump that if we witness Israeli strikes, it is going to hold Washington directly responsible. And now in the wake of, we're expecting these retaliatory strikes from Iran, Israel is already bracing by closing down the schools and airspace. The big question is, what do we expect going forward? Because it's already jeopardized the talks between Tehran and Washington about the nuclear enrichment.
Right,
so what's
also, given the fact that the Revolutionary Guards Chief Major General Hossein Salami has been confirmed killed in the strikes as well.
Salami as well. Okay. Yeah, well, what was supposed to happen over the weekend in Oman, those discussions, I didn't expect them to go anywhere. Last night, Steve Witkoff, who was kind of doing the mixed messaging and not giving a clear message, he came down and said, no reprocessing, no enrichment. So I do believe that there was a wink and a nod from the Trump administration. I don't believe Israel completely acted alone in this. I believe that Trump had seen that negotiations had been completely exhausted. Khamenei was unwilling to give up this program to enrich and to reprocess. And let me just say that any country, every country in the world, if the Islamic Republic reprocessed and was able to enrich uranium, they would be, and as they say, they don't want a nuclear weapon, they would be the first country in the world that has those capabilities but doesn't have a nuclear weapon. So their option was always to buy, if they wanted a peaceful nuclear program, to buy it, to purchase it on the open market, just as every other country does. But they chose not to, because ultimately it was a movement towards the bomb, and that's what the Israelis decided to take out. And the ballistic missiles, that's taking out the second strike capabilities. Trump was warned, we've been warned that we'll be held directly responsible, and that the Islamic Republic will respond. Yeah, absolutely, we fully expected that. But there's been a lot of shaping exercises that have been taking place. We also have to remember that the Air Force, the Islamic Republic, their Air Force, the fighters that they have to carry out any attacks, they can get to Israel, but they can't get back. They can't refuel. So all they have are ballistic missiles and drones. And the drone factories were targeted in the last couple of days. There's been targeting in Lebanon. There was targeting in Yemen as well, in anticipation of this second strike that will be coming from the Islamic Republic. But we have to remember back when they did this before, after the assassination of Hania, and after they hit the Damascus annex, the Islamic Republic launched a series of volleys. One was 200 projectiles, the other one I think was 700 to 800 projectiles, and they didn't do any damage. They ended up killing 2 innocent civilians that were actually Arabs. So they don't have the capabilities and the capacity. They've got a lot of bluster right now, and over the last bunch of years, they've been using the nuclear blackmail card, and that's been the only leverage that they've had, especially after Hezbollah.
Right now, of course, from what we are hearing from the Israeli side as well, Netanyahu has very clearly announced that this will go on till it's over. To what end is really the question. He's also announced that the targets were military commanders, facilities, scientists. Would it be a stretch then to call this an all-out war?
Yeah, it would be a stretch to call it an all-out war, because we're not going to see ground mobilization. We're not going to see troops moving in there. What we're seeing are precision strikes, one, to take out those capabilities, the nuclear facilities. Number 2, taking out the individuals who run the military, who will call those second strikes, the key individuals such as Salami, and also hitting those ballistic missile sites, hitting those areas. So I don't see it as being a full-fledged war. This is a degrading. This first phase obviously looks a lot like shock and awe. It was a big punch in the nose for the Islamic Republic, but this is going to continue, and they're going to continue to degrade to the point where I expect that the Iranian people will come back and take back their country.
All right, Mr. Kalmal, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA. It's always a pleasure to have you with us, and thank you so much for your insights on this.
Thank you.
Well, Iran state TV says that Israel hit Natanz nuclear site and says no sign of nuclear contamination following an Israeli attack on Natanz nuclear site.
So this is the latest that we're getting right now. Armed Forces Chief of Staff Bagheri was in the war room, and this is the latest that is coming from there. Iranian state TV has said that Bagheri is alive in the war room. It says that Israel hit the Natanz nuclear site. Till now, there is no reports of any sort of nuclear contamination. This is what we do know. This, as you know, comes in the aftermath of Israel's Rising Lion operation that it carried out on Iranian nuclear power, as well as in retaliation to Iranian aggression. For now, we do know that there is no sign of nuclear contamination here. This as Israel was aiming to attack Iran's nuclear power. So the Iranian state media had earlier also confirmed the killing of Revolutionary Guards Chief Major General Hossein Salami in the Israeli strikes. The state TV has now reported that the Armed Forces Chief of Staff Bagheri is alive, and they've also mentioned that the Natanz nuclear site was hit. For now, there are no reports of any nuclear contamination in the area. Earlier, we were also getting visuals from Tehran, where we saw how Israeli strikes on residential buildings in the Iranian capital. A number of civilians have been killed, including children. We are yet to get the numbers, the updated numbers. Blasts were heard in Natanz city, Iran's central province of Isfahan, where a key nuclear site is located. And as per Iranian state media, there are no signs of any nuclear contamination. And of course, there were multiple explosions which were heard in capital Tehran as well. These are the visuals from Tehran, as you can see.
And this is the latest we're getting, that Israel has hit Natanz nuclear site, and it says that there's no sign of nuclear contamination following an Israeli attack on Natanz's nuclear site. Iran state TV has also said that Armed Forces Chief of Staff Bagheri is alive in war room. Now, this is the latest that we're getting. And of course, it comes on the heels of the Iranian state media, which has also confirmed killing of the Revolutionary Guards Chief Major General Hossein Salami in Israeli strikes. From what we're seeing and the videos that have surfaced, fire and smoke was seen at the IRGC General Command headquarters in Firozi Street in the east of Tehran.
All right, so far the big developments from West Asia are as such. Netanyahu has said that he will carry out strikes and will carry out this operation for as long as it may be required. Iranian media has reported that the country is preparing to declare a war on Israel, and the IDF has urged Israelis to take shelter in anticipation of a retaliation. There is an emergency in place. Of course, this comes as the United States and Iran were engaging in the negotiations on the nuclear talks which had been going on, though it didn't yield any significant results so far. Those were underway as well.
And Netanyahu has also said that they will carry the strike for as long as it may be needed. And Iranian media reports the country is preparing to declare a war on Israel. Well, IDF urges Israelis to take shelter in anticipation of retaliation in terms of missiles and drone attack. And also in the anticipation, schools have been shut across the country on Friday, along with the Israeli airspace that's also been closed. Meanwhile, Trump is conducting a security meeting. We're yet to get more updates on that. But meanwhile, Netanyahu has very clearly reiterated that it will go on for as long as it's required, and there's no sign of backing down as of right now.
All right, this is an alarming development that is coming in from West Asia. We also know that Iranian state media has confirmed the killing of Revolutionary Guards Chief Major General Hossein Salami in the Israeli strikes as part of Rising Lion operations. Fire and smoke was seen in the IRGC Central Command headquarters in the Firozi Street in east of Tehran.
A large-scale DNA sampling drive is underway to identify the victims of the airplane crash in Ahmedabad.
Now, forensic teams are working continuously to identify victims of the Air India plane crash. DNA test results are expected within 72 hours.
Well, a London-bound passenger jet crashed in Ahmedabad on Thursday, killing at least 265 people on board and on the ground. While one passenger has miraculously survived, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to visit Ahmedabad today.
Right. The government has opened a formal investigation into the cause of the crash as well. Air India CEO Campbell Wilson arrived at the plane crash site today as well.
Now, rescue teams are working into Friday morning, scouring the charred wreckage with sniffer dogs. Deputy Commissioner of Police Kanan Desai told reporters, and he said that 265 bodies have reached the hospital.
India's Civil Aviation Authority has said that 2 pilots, 10 cabin crew were among the 242 people on board. Air India said there were 169 Indian passengers, 53 British, 7 Portuguese and a Canadian on board the flight as well.
Flight that was headed for London's Gatwick Airport when the fatal crash happened, and now that suggests that at least 24 people had died when the jet ploughed into a medical staff hostel in a blazing fireball, and that the toll may rise further as more bodies are located.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the scenes from the crash were devastating, while the country's King Charles III said that he was desperately shocked.
The investigation is going on. We've dispatched an investigation team that's been deployed. The Foreign Secretary is leading on this, and we'll obviously update as soon as we can. But we're working with the Indian authorities on this to establish the facts. I would say to all families, friends of anybody affected to please contact the Foreign Office for further information.
All right, a large-scale DNA sampling drive is underway. From what we do know so far, the black box has been recovered, which will of course help in investigations which are underway. An official inquiry has been opened into this case as well. The DNA sampling drive is also underway, which will help identify the victims of the airplane crash in Ahmedabad. Forensic teams are working continuously to identify victims of the Air India plane crash.
Right, the government has opened a formal investigation into the case and the cause of the crash, and Air India CEO Campbell Wilson has arrived at the plane crash site today to take stock of the situation. Meanwhile, rescue teams are working into the Friday morning as well, scouring the charred wreckage with sniffer dogs. Deputy Commissioner of Police Kanan Desai has told reporters that as of now, 265 bodies have reached the hospital. That's the latest number we're getting right now. And this includes passengers on board the flight and also the places where the plane has crashed, which is the doctor's hostel. Now, India's Civil Aviation Authority said that 2 pilots and 10 cabin crew members were also among the 242 people on board.
Right, of course, now the inquiry completely hinges on 3 big elements here, which is the findings from the black box, of course, the testimony of the lone survivor from this crash. CCTV footage of the crash will also play a critical role in determining what truly happened. Now, for what we do know so far, the DNA sampling is underway. The results of that are expected within 72 hours or so. Now, just for our viewers, the London-bound passenger jet crashed in Ahmedabad on Thursday, killing at least 265 people on board as well as on ground. This, as you know, it crashed into the Medical College hostel, the dining area. So far, the death toll stands at 265 people. We are, of course, getting all the details from ground as well, and we will keep bringing you all the developments as and when they come in. All right, and with that, it's time now for a short break. Don't go anywhere. News and updates will continue on the other side on WION World is One. Do stay tuned.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION's Business Master Series is an incredible experience. The questions are incredibly thought-provoking, and for me, they force me to introspect about what are the goals, what are the values that really govern the way we want to run our business, the way we want to be as a company, and where we want to be in 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now.
This week on the West Asia Post, Iran threatens to bomb US bases in West Asia if nuclear talks with Washington fail. Trump orders pulling out US troops from the region as he explores the Iranian target list. Also on the show, Hariri party's back-off threat to dissolve Knesset.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radhi Francis, only on WION World is One.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show as well. Let's get started with the headlines first.
We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program.
Iranian state media claims Revolutionary Guards Chief Salami has been killed in Israeli strikes. State TV reports fire and smoke was seen at IRGC General Command headquarters in Pirozi Street in the east of Tehran.
Air raid sirens sounded in Jerusalem after the Defense Ministry declared a state of emergency.
Judge says Trump illegally deployed National Guards to help with Los Angeles protests and must return control to California.
At least 265 people have died after a London-bound Air India flight crashed in a residential area of Ahmedabad. The Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner heading for Gatwick was carrying 242 people.
A large-scale DNA sampling drive is underway at Ahmedabad with FSL teams working continuously to identify victims of the Air India plane crash. Now, the DNA test results are expected within 72 hours.
Three critical keys to the mystery behind the crash take center stage as the probe into the crash gets underway. Experts say that findings from the black box, of course, testimony of the survivor, the lone survivor, and CCTV footage of the crash will play a critical role.
The investigation is going on. We've dispatched an investigation team that's been deployed, but we're working with the Indian authorities on this to establish the facts.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the UK had dispatched an investigation team to India. Says Britain is working with Indian authorities to establish the facts.
Boeing shares dropped over 4% after an Air India 787 crash killed nearly 265 people, putting pressure on new CEO Kelly Ortberg just days before the Paris Air Show despite no confirmed design flaws.
Reportage's Pawn plays error-free on America's toughest course to take a one-shot lead in the opening round of the US Open. Patrick Reed steals the limelight with a double eagle. Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy struggle.
And breaking news coming in from West Asia. The situation here is evolving by the minute. The Israeli army chief has warned of an Iranian response. Israel's army chief, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, said on Friday that the military strikes on Iran may not achieve absolute success and warned citizens to prepare for a potential Iranian response as well.
He said, and I'm quoting him here, "I can't promise absolute success. The Iranian regime will attempt to attack us in response. The expected toll will be different to what we are used to." This is what Zamir said in a statement while calling the strikes on Iran a historic campaign unlike any other.
Also, of course, this is the latest that has just come in. Israel is anticipating a response from Iran. US President Donald Trump, on the other hand, is set to convene a meeting with his security chiefs today to discuss the recent Israeli airstrikes on Iran.
According to the White House, the US President Donald Trump will convene a meeting of his National Security Council at 11 a.m. local time. The operation, dubbed Operation Rising Lion, targeted key parts of Iran's nuclear and military program, including nuclear enrichment facilities and ballistic missile programs.
Of course, lots of reports are coming in. As I mentioned earlier, it's a fast-moving situation. Everything remains dynamic at the moment. There are some Iranian state media reports as well of blasts being heard in a key uranium enrichment site in Iran. We are, of course, trying to sift through all the information that is coming right now. From what we do know so far is that at the moment, Israeli army chief has warned of an Iranian response. He has said that I can't promise absolute success. On the other side, in the United States, Trump is set to convene a meeting with the security chiefs to discuss the recent Israeli airstrikes on Iran. And for the latest now, we're being joined by our correspondent, Susan Tehrani from New York. Susan, what can you tell us?
So Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the United States was not involved in the strikes, but warned Iran not to target U.S. forces. Of course, as you mentioned, we're hearing numerous reports coming in from possible assassination attempts on the generals of Iran. But what's noteworthy is we're also hearing reports that President Trump told Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday, in not so many words, not to attack Iran when Netanyahu raised the possibility of strikes in a phone conversation with President Trump. This is according to U.S. officials. Trump responded that he would like to see diplomacy run its course before turning to military options. But then we saw how fast things developed on Wednesday. U.S. pulled some of its non-essential personnel out of the region in case of an attack. I also want to note that right before the strikes, just a few hours before, Israel's Consul General said that the U.S. and Israel recognize a common threat. This was in an interview that hasn't been completely published yet on the Wall Street Journal. He said that the Western world has to decide, do you want the Ayatollah or do you want Western civilization, basically indicating that the United States and Israel are on the same page. As you mentioned, President Trump is going to meet with top administration officials and his cabinet officials at 11 a.m. tomorrow. We have reports that he's also meeting with his top brass earlier tonight. We'll have to see. Ultimately, the big question is, should Iran decide to retaliate, what role the United States is going to play in that?
Right, Susan, it is a crucial moment, and we know that Iran has warned Trump that if Israel strikes its nuclear facilities, U.S. would be responsible. And not just that, but Iran has threatened to retaliate with a counterattack not only in Israel and targeting Israeli infrastructure, but also on American military bases in Iraq. Now, with this meeting, what are we expecting? How is this conflict going to pan out?
Yeah, that's a very valid point. And again, we're trying to get confirmations right now, but there are reports that there were explosions heard in and around the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. There are concerns that U.S. personnel might be targeted. Again, we don't have confirmation regarding this, official at least, but these are according to some media reports in the region. The most important and pressing question, of course, as you mentioned, is how is it going to pan out? To what extent will the United States stand by Israel should Iran decide to retaliate? But also, we are hearing reports that these Israeli strikes have not ended. And Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, has indicated that it will last as many days as possible until the targets that they have in mind are eliminated. Now, are those targets just infrastructure, or are they talking about targets about individuals inside Iran as well?
Right, Susan, and we're also getting reports that new blasts are being heard at key uranium enrichment sites in Iran's center. And of course, that aligns with what Netanyahu is saying, that they're not going to back down until they reach the logical conclusion. So how do we expect the situation to develop further? And because there's no sign of backing down, at least from Israel, and a retaliatory missile and drone attack from Iran is imminent if anything changes after the meeting with Trump, of course.
Right, and we're again hearing this through Iranian media and Israeli media, and we're trying to really, figure out which statement is official. But Iranian media is reporting that Iran is ready in a few hours from now, any minute, to declare official war against Israel. Now, that itself would, of course, be kinetic. It would be very vast once that declaration is met. We haven't, again, heard that from Iranian officials, but we are seeing these reports circulate inside Iranian media. Again, as you mentioned, we're also hearing reports that Israel continues to carry out its attacks even as we speak, not only around Tehran, but also in places like Tabriz and other cities around Iran where there are reported nuclear facilities. Remember, some of these nuclear facilities we know of. We know Natanz, we know Fordow, but there are other nuclear sites that Iran has not declared, hence, causing that International Atomic Agency report today, which officially said that Iran is not complying and cooperating with UN inspectors.
Right, absolutely. And just for our viewers, let's just get you the latest that is coming in from West Asia at the moment. Right now, new blast has been reported at the key uranium enrichment site in Iran's central region. This, as per the Iranian state TV. This is a statement that's come out by the Iranian state TV. We are sifting through all the information that is coming in from the region. According to reports, the Natanz facility, it's a key part of Iran's nuclear program, with both above ground and underground sections housing centrifuges for uranium enrichment, which was a key bone of contention even in the nuclear talks between the United States and Iran. From what it appears at the moment, it's going to be a difficult balancing act for the United States. Trump has called a meeting with the security chiefs today to discuss this recent escalation between Israel and Iran. On the other side, we do know that Israel is very much prepared for counter-strikes. It has declared a state of emergency. Its chiefs have warned of a response from Iran as well. Lieutenant General Ayal Zamir has said on Friday that the military strike on Iran may not achieve absolute success and has warned the citizens to prepare for a potential Iranian response. Susan, of course, as I mentioned earlier as well, this is the latest that's coming right now. There's a lot of information that's coming from the region. As per the Iranian state TV, another blast has been reported at a key uranium enrichment site. We've discussed this already. Israel has said that it is not going to stop. To what end can it continue this escalation? That is a question that remains to be answered, as well as what role and to what extent the United States will get involved in this escalation in West Asia, and how much it can defend Israel, given its history of vehemently backing Israel in the past as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely valid. And remember, the United States has more than 40,000 active troops, active duty troops in the Middle East region. This is not, mere hundreds. These 40,000 across the region. So right now, those 40,000 U.S. personnel, despite the fact that Marco Rubio noted that Israel acted unilaterally, their lives are in danger right now, and they are on high alert. And then, of course, you have the USS Vincent, which is in the Arabian Sea. That ship is equipped with F-35 fighter jets on the part of the United States. And then you have also the news, as you mentioned, that the United States started evacuating its personnel starting yesterday, Wednesday, after there were reports that Israel might indeed attack Iran in earnest, despite reports again that President Trump had apparently told Benjamin Netanyahu to hold off. There were so many of us who thought that this strike, should it happen, would happen possibly after this weekend, because Iran's foreign minister was due to meet with U.S. top officials in Oman to discuss the nuclear deal. And if you hear Donald Trump speaking, although he did say, an attack is very likely coming from Israel, he also was saying that there has been progress made to a certain extent in those nuclear talks. So this attack came really as a surprise. What's going to happen with those nuclear negotiations between the United States and Iran, that's anyone's guess. We still don't know if they're on, they're off in Oman. They were expected to happen on Sunday.
Right. All right, Susan, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on this. We'll, of course, continue to track all developments on this front.
All right, and moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Ahmedabad today to take stock of the situation. Meanwhile, a large-scale DNA sampling drive is currently underway to identify the victims of the airplane crash in Ahmedabad.
Forensic teams, of course, are working continuously to identify victims of the Air India plane crash. DNA test results are expected within 72 hours. A London-bound passenger jet crashed in Ahmedabad on Thursday, killing at least 265 people on board and on the ground.
Well, one passenger has miraculously survived. 40-year-old Ramesh Kumar is the sole survivor of the crash.
The government has opened a formal investigation into the cause of the crash as well. Air India CEO Campbell Wilson arrived at the plane crash site today as well.
Meanwhile, rescue teams are working into Friday morning, scouring the charred wreckage with sniffer dogs. Deputy Commissioner of Police Kanan Desai has told reporters that 265 bodies have reached the hospital as of now.
India's Civil Aviation Authority said 2 pilots, 10 cabin crew were among the 242 people on board. Air India said there were 169 Indian passengers, 53 British, 7 Portuguese and a Canadian on board on the flight bound for London's Gatwick Airport.
Well, that suggests that at least 24 people died when the jet ploughed into a medical staff hostel in a blazing fireball, and that the toll may rise further as more bodies are located.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that the scenes from the crash were devastating, while the country's King Charles III said that he was desperately shocked.
The investigation is going on. We've dispatched an investigation team that's been deployed. The Foreign Secretary is leading on this, and we'll obviously update as soon as we can. But we're working with the Indian authorities on this to establish the facts. I would say to all families, friends of anybody affected to please contact the Foreign Office for further information.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by our principal correspondent Disha Shah, joining us from ground zero of this tragedy in Ahmedabad. Disha, if you could just quickly get us up to speed with what's happening on ground right now, if there's any update in the toll.
Yes, absolutely. On the ground level, the rescue operations have been completed, is what we are being told by the Ahmedabad police and also the rescue team that is present here. According to the Ahmedabad police, 265 bodies they have recovered from the crash site, including of the passengers that were on board and also the students from the VJ Medical College here, where the crash really took place. Because remember, it was lunchtime and the hostel students were really having their lunch. So a lot of students were also impacted with the crash. And now what we are being told is by 9:30, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected here at the crash site. He will be visiting here along with the top leaders of the country. And after that, he will be then going to the civil hospital to meet the victims and also the victims' family members is what we are being told. So right now this entire crash site area has been cordoned off. It has been sealed for the movement of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On the other side, now after the rescue operations are done, the next focus of action and priority for the Gujarat administration here is to finish the sampling of the DNA test that is being done since yesterday of the relatives of the victims, because this will make identification of the passengers really easy and simpler.
All right.
So more than 1,000 samples have already been taken is what we understand, and today it will take another 24 hours for all the samples to be taken, and then the result will be expected within the time frame of 72 hours.
All right, Disha, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that.
And for more than this, we're being joined by a group captain, MJ Augustine Vinod, to get us more details. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast at WION World this morning. So let me begin by saying that now that we've recovered the black box and we know that the investigation to determine the cause of this fatal crash is underway, what is the next course of action?
Great question. In fact, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Board, I'm also one of the members in the AIB board, or Aircraft Accident Investigation Board of DGCA. Of course, not particularly investigating into this crash, would have constituted, and first evidences that they would be going to would be this particular data that has to come from, I mean, it's loosely called black box, but in today's age, it is called the DFDR, Digital Flight Data Recorder, which also consists the data from CVR, the Cockpit Voice Recorder. Yesteryears, it used to be recorded on a kind of a film, and you had to, process the film and then take out the data. Today, with DFDR in place, the amount of data that gets recorded is humongous. The reason for that is post-crash analysis becomes easy when you have all the data coming in. Now, I mean, for the understanding of viewers, data like pressures and temperatures from every stages of the engine, control positions, airspeed, altitude, the functioning of the computers, because this aeroplane has umpteen number of computers. Computers for every function there is a computer,
right?
And not one. In Dreamliner, you have 3 to 4 computers for every function. So all that data comes into DFDR, and all of this will be analyzed. So the start point will be the DFDR, and this in the initial portion or the initial phase of accident investigation is going to be looking at the angle of sabotage and ruling out the angle of sabotage if there is any, or if there is none. Then the rest of the things follow. So that is how the sequence of events are. Hopefully, the preliminary information after the DFDR data is milked out. I am told for 787, the DFDR data milking out facility exists only in US. So most probably the DFDR has to be flown to US. And they will milk it out there, because it is in the dots and dashes, you see. So it is in raw form. So you need to glean the information out of it, and the report hopefully should come out quickly. And the preliminary information from DGCA should be out anytime soon. It needs to be out for simple reason. If there was an electrical issue, or if there was what they say rammer turbine has been deployed, or whatever technical issue, other 787s are grounded because of that. That cannot happen. It is a huge cost to the entire world. So quickly, in the interest of Boeing, as well as in the interests of the companies which own these aircraft,
Right.
this data needs to be out, and it will come out. I hope it is today or tomorrow, or maybe in a couple of days.
Right.
That will give us exactly what has gone wrong.
Absolutely. Now, just to expand on that a little further, you've pretty much summed it up for us. Of course, right now we do know that the investigation hinges on the testimony of the lone survivor, witnesses if there were any at the time, the CCTV footage of the crash, which will also play a critical role, and of course we've discussed the black box. Now, just talking of the footage, I believe you must have seen that tragic video that has been doing the rounds as well. Just by the looks of it, if you were to assess and perhaps gauge what could have gone wrong, what do you think happened there?
See, aeroplane sinking back into the ground has once an aeroplane takes off fine, it attained a certain attitude after takeoff. Up to that point, it was uneventful. Event started, I think, at about 200, 300 feet from the ground is when the aeroplane started to sink back. The aeroplane sinking back to the ground has only two reasons: loss of lift and loss of thrust. By listening to the engine noise or the engine hum, loss of thrust, I don't know. But to me, prima facie, it appears loss of thrust may not be the reason, or maybe a partial reason. The flaps going up, if you look at the video very carefully, the slats are still out. Slats are the leading edge of the wing which comes down. Flaps are the trailing edge of the wing which comes down as well. So the leading edge of the wing is down. So in a certain configuration, you can have the leading edge down and the trailing edge slightly down. So that is something which you can see very clearly in the video. But it is not takeoff flaps as far as I can see.
Right.
So there has been, and also people are saying RAT is deployed. I'm not able to see that. Maybe the RAT is deployed, rammer turbine. If rammer turbine gets deployed, it is when you have lost all the electricals. As a last measure, the rammer turbine gets deployed, and the electrical is now, again, the aeroplane gets the electrical circuit back. During the period when the RAT is deployed and the RAT is spinning up, the batteries are providing electrical supply, and electrical supply is an absolute requirement for any aeroplane which uses fly-by-wire. So in this case, loss of lift is something that I feel is the reason why the aeroplane sank back into the ground. Over to you.
All right. Well, sir, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with your insights on this.
Pleasure.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world.